What happened to all the hippies? I mean, where did they all go? Can we think twice, Canada, about the death of free speech, dissenting opinion, and how social media is literally killing democracy? The uncomfortable truth is we now live in a globalist newsgeist of cancel culture and social media censorship where algorithms flag real debate as fake news, and sharing unpopular links or opinions or the wrong keywords can get you suppressed, flagged, banned, and deplatformed altogether. So welcome all you free-thinking, awakened souls of humanity. Let's think twice about how we got here and whether the pendulum of woke righteousness and news censorship has swung too far. Has the grand social experiment failed? Most importantly, hang tight to the end because I believe there is something that you and I can do about it. If you like this video, please do express your view with the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell for notifications to fight those algorithms. And better yet, let me know your enlightened thoughts in the comments so that I know I'm not speaking into the void of social media. Anyway, ironically, the whole idea of social media was born to connect people, to offer a free platform to exchange ideas and express themselves, to find some common ground. And the algorithms were meant to help you find your tribe and allow us to share our ideas and our lives with our friends and our loved ones, even around the globe. It was meant to bring our global community closer together so that we can enhance democracy and free thinking. But ironically, social media companies and government elites have crowned themselves the socialist arbiters of right and wrong thinking. And while we're distracted by Johnny Depp and the monkeypox, governments are passing laws that literally overwrite the fundamental values of a free and fair democracy that we've come to grow up with. They've developed algorithms that find your tribe, sure, but they keep you on one side of the political spectrum and fuel those tribal instincts with fear and divisiveness. They create fact-checking algorithms supposedly to fight disinformation, but we end up being dictated to about what we can and can't say. If you spend more than a decade on face pages or the Blue Birdie or the Tube of the U, you know how quickly a discussion can turn to a venomous drama and a tribe can turn to a lynch brawl pretty quick. So let's remember, in the past, kings and queens and authoritarian dictators used to behead people who disagreed with them, and they called it treason. Today, we don't behead people, we just defame them, deface them, debook them, de-you them, no, de-tube them, whatever you want to call it. Social media conglomerates now decide who's valid, verified, and who adds value to the approved narrative of the day. The rest of the dissenters are deplatformed, making them social media outcasts from society. And you thought making people disappear was only for mafia and Russians. What's worse is that politicians have caught on to the power of social media influence. In their policies, they're reflecting, and now they're legislating the censorship of any thought that does not fit the narrative of the current political whims of power. Just look in Canada at Bill C-11 or Bill C-18. We'll cover that in another video, but let's think twice, Canada, and ask, why would people with power and influence want to control certain information that might lead free thinkers to start questioning what they've been told? I mean, we have to protect people and keep them safe from misinformation and radical thought, right? The problem is, democracies only work when ideas are openly and respectfully debated. Democracy, like science, abhors a vacuum of information, and it relies on analysis and various perspectives to come up with the right mix of policies that serve a free and fair democracy, or free and fair society in general. The thing is, if you suppress information and different points of view, you create a literal locked echo chamber that serves only those with the most power, leaving everyone else ignorant, obedient, and unquestioningly compliant. Sure, everyone has an agenda, that's not new. There is fake news, that's not new either. And the politically motivated lies and spin are not new to social media. But let's remember that generations before us learned to look at all sides of an issue and make up their own mind about what's right for their families, their communities. And that's how our justice system was formed and how democracies are supposed to work. So the idea that other points of view should be labeled, suppressed, censored isn't new either. Previous generations fought that battle for free speech and won against McCarthyism, fascism, and communism. You see, defending free speech is now vilified as if it's hate speech. Case in point, the Liberal government reintroduced a draconian bill, Bill C-11 and formerly C-10, under the guise of protecting personal information being used and shared by big bad social media companies for commercial purposes, which, by the way, was already illegal under other legislation. But that's a convenient excuse to include provisions in the bill such as fake news and the government now telling you that they have to protect you from misinformation and disinformation for your safety. Because God forbid you could be a free thinker and make up your own mind. What I want to know is, where did all the hippies go? You know, the ones that marched in the streets and sang Kumbaya and spoke out against the man for civil rights, equality, bodily sovereignty, and freedom. Did they just all get so old and so fearful that now they've surrendered to the man? And now they even argue that the man knows what's best. But that's another video, I guess. Can we not see that the idea of legislating free speech in social media is akin to going back to the days of book burning and censorship? Hold on. Now let's think twice, Canada. I'm about to speak some uncomfortable truth about history that'll probably get me cancelled or burned at the stake. Do you know who's most famous for mass book burnings? And state-sponsored censorship and cultural control? Now, most people would say, yeah, the Nazi regime, because they literally controlled information. They burned books by Jewish scholars. They had a ministry of propaganda, and they controlled all the media. They also seized bank accounts and made over 6 million people disappear, by the way, because those people had a different point of view than their dictator. Actually, book burning started in China in 213 BC, when the Qin dynasty emperor suppressed the free-thinking Confucian scholars who were trying to awaken people to a different perspective, a more spiritual one maybe. He not only burned all the scholarly books, but he buried the scholars alive, which, if you think about it, is kind of analogous to the modern-day cancel culture that we live in now. I mean, if you get canceled from social media, you're still alive, but you're forced to live on an underground platform so no one really sees you, and you are a social outcast from amongst your friends and your family. A little later in Christian history, zealots burned traditional healing books and called herbalists and traditional healers witches, and they burned them at the stake. Then they burned the anatomy books because they were obscene and they led to promiscuity and hedonism. This was all for the crime of using natural remedies to help heal people instead of the medical science of mercury, laudanum, and leeches. So if you think that those days are long gone and maybe I'm just using hyperbolic examples, just remember that from 2001 to 2003, churches in the United States were still burning Harry Potter books. And then in 2017, only 4 or 5 years ago, burning Harry Potter books turned political when author J.K. Rowling came out against Donald Trump. So, who's leading the modern-day virtual book-burning parties today? Ironically, it's driven by the politicians who want to quell dissent and control elections. And what's worse, the hippie generation and the children of the hippies like me are joining the chorus of oppression. The same people calling the freedom movement a fringe minority have completely forgotten that they were once the counterculture fighting for freedom, civil rights, free speech, equality for all humans. They fought the man calling for peace, free love, and happiness rather than segregation and oppression. Did an entire generation and the children they raised forget that they spent their youth being freedom fighters and liberators that fought the New World Order? I mean, they tried to awaken the world with a free and fair and just society, and it worked. But if you're a part of that generation and you believe in social media censorship, mandates, and QR codes that segregate society, shame on you for letting the man win. How did you become so fearful that you forgot your own roots and everything you stood for? It's time to wake up. It's time to think twice, Canada. Everything you fought for, marched for civil rights, equality, free speech, peace, love, harmony, and equality are the real values that made Canada Canada. They were always put at risk by powerful elites, and they were definitely worth fighting for. The only difference now is we need to question the narrative. So what's the solution? If you think you have a solution, let me know in the comments, because here's where I'm going with this. So the result of letting political games and special interests label and divide us and deplatform those who express an uncomfortable truth is that as a society, we're scared to express what we really think or question, what we're being told, and even more afraid to have an open discussion about issues because the drama just isn't worth it. For the social media smartphone generation, they choose to parrot the groupthink or stay silent because they're more afraid of losing social media influence or status or having their accounts canceled. So let that sink in for a second. The day I'm afraid to speak my mind for fear of being socially outcast or put in face jail or being deplatformed altogether is the day I'm willingly walking into the gilded cage of my oppressor. So what's the solution? Well, what if we just stop dividing ourselves? Stop dividing our communities, our families? What if we declared everyone should actually be treated equal, and the cost of losing civil liberties to fear or control is just too high? What if we agreed to love our neighbors, celebrate our differences, and stop segregating society into tribes? What if we agreed to disagree and refuse to hate people that disagree with us? What if we engaged in an adult conversation that respectfully discussed different points of view from different spheres of experience? What if we chose to not be offended by everything? This begs the question, are we conditioning the next generation to just sit down, stop questioning, just shut up and accept the narrative of the man? Or whatever the narrative of the day is? I mean, we now have entire school boards and politicians arguing that our kids need to keep masks on, keep socially distancing, despite the fact that public health officials have come out and science has come out and said that that really doesn't work and they really aren't at risk. Or could it be that schools just like having our kids so scared and obedient to authority that they're willing to keep them sitting down, keep them muzzled, and not running around being kids that are rowdy and disobedient? So this is a message to all you former hippies, boomers, Gen Xers, and the wannabe hippies. Actually, it's for all Canadians. It's time to remember who we are. You were meant to be the light of humanity and truth. It's time to rise up, speak up, stand united for the sake of future generations. You see, we need more love and less hate. We need more compassion and less divisiveness. We need more peace, love, and understanding. So where are all the hippies? It's your time to shine. It's your time to shine a light that dispels the wicked political games that divide us. It's time to remember that civil and social war is not about humanity. It's about the man usurping political power and control over our lives. Wars were never about the people. They're always about driving economic and corporate interests. It was that way in every world war, in Vietnam, in Korea, in the Gulf Wars, and even in the Ukraine. So bringing the light of humanity and compassion to the world starts with you. It starts with your conversations, your community, your country. And that shift to bring the light will remind the world that cooperation plus tolerance equals peace. It's time to think twice, Canada. Thanks for listening. And don't forget to subscribe.